Hey everyone, it is your favorite ski mask wearing idiot. The Nerf Stryfe, whether you like it or not, is likely one of the most influential blasters within the Nerf space. Being one of the first magazine-fed flywheel dart blasters of its time, having its internals be reused in plenty of other Nerf blasters, and of course the copious amounts of aftermarket and mod support by the community. Lots of the flywheel blasters of today can thank the Stryfe for popularizing the flywheel platform and the types of mods that were pioneered by the community using the Stryfe, like lipo rewires for example. For a long time, if you wanted a really good flywheel primary, modifying or commissioning a Stryfe was your best option because of the amount of aftermarket and mod support. You can really do whatever you wanted with the platform within reason. However, in recent years, the Stryfe seems to have taken a bit of a backseat thanks to off-the-shelf high-performance blasters and community-made designs. If not the backseat, then that one chair in a hotel room. Part of the reason I really wanted to make this video is because of a few conversations I've had around the Stryfe and how it may not 100% be the best option anymore. Sorry, FaZe. Your goat has fallen. So let's discuss the two big reasons for why the Stryfe may not be the best anymore, and at the end, if the Stryfe in the year of our Lord 2025 is still worth it for you. Also, we're solely talking about modified Stryfes. Stock unmodified Stryfes, I guess, will do the job if you need to hit around 70 FPS, but even then, I think there may be better options like the Spectrum, Thunderbolt, or even newer Nerf offerings like the Storm Charge nowadays. Okay, starting with the first point, the prevalence of off-the-shelf high FPS flywheelers. Things like the Dartzone Pro Mark III, the Maxim Pro, the Omnia Pro, and the Siren Blank are all examples of blasters that hit around 150 FPS off the shelf. Unlike the Stryfe, where you have to first source the Stryfe, then source your mod parts, and then finally do the mod yourself. With off-the-shelf blasters, you can skip all of that and immediately have a working blaster. Mostly. As you can imagine, simply going in store or online to buy a blaster that pretty much does the same thing your Stryfe does, but with less work and is also likely more cheaper, is very appealing. Depending on the way you get your Stryfe, whether you get lucky at a thrift store and you pull one for super cheap, or you pay full price for it on Amazon, it's very likely you're spending the same or even more money on your modified blaster than one already on the shelf. And of course, going through the effort of opening a blaster, soldering the wires and motors together, troubleshooting issues, replacing parts, and adding additional stuff takes a lot more work than just buying the blaster. If you're the type of person who solely mods because there's nothing else on the market you're looking for, like, I don't know, a 150 FPS half-dart blaster, then there's likely no reason for you to mod anymore because those are everywhere now. However, I do believe that this recent surge of high FPS flywheelers is, at the end of the day, a good thing. Before the late 2010s and 2020s, if you wanted to hit that 150 FPS mark with a flywheeler, you either had to mod or buy a pre-modded or commissioned blaster like the Stryfe. All of which I feel like is a bit much to ask for somebody who just started playing Nerf. If someone new wanted a high FPS flywheeler, I wouldn't recommend them buy a pre-modded Stryfe or mod one themselves. Blasters like the Maxim Pro, despite my issues with it, are a great stepping stone for people to get their feet wet with the platform and see if they even like flywheelers at all. And lots of the time, they serve just as well as full-blown primaries for people who are already in tune with the hobby. But this has had the side effect of the Stryfe not being as favorable anymore, at least in my opinion. Opinion? It says experience in the script, you illiterate bastard. Now let's talk about 3D printing and community designs. With the new-ish prevalence of 3D printing, it was only a matter of time before the Nerf community started doing dope stuff with the tech, which includes community-made flywheel designs such as the Griffin. The Griffin is an open-source flywheel blaster which essentially opened the floodgates for the community to do all sorts of cool things with the platform, just like the Stryfe. If you want to store the battery in the grip and make it super compact, you can do that. If you want to make it look like the vault from Titanfall, you can do that. And if you want to make it solenoid driven, you can do that. The Griffin is a very flexible platform just like the Stryfe, but with the unique advantage of being able to be made from scratch. If you have a 3D printer or a buddy that has one, you could print out all the parts you need for fairly cheap. You can skip the whole process of sourcing a Stryfe for your build and go straight into the process of making it once the parts are finished. This is also great if you want to sell a bunch of blasters because it's easier to print out your own parts than to source out Stryfes. At least I would think so. I actually don't really know. I could be talking out of my booty bum butthole for that one. Of course, 3D printing has its own set of drawbacks, like getting a 3D printer, which lots of people either don't have the money or space for in their living area. Certain filament can straight up melt at higher temperatures, and the stuff that doesn't melt is more expensive. And depending on print quality and overall design of the blaster, it could just fall apart like some Legos. But despite the disadvantages of 3D printed community designs, lots of people put up with it, and as a result, the Stryfe in today's half-length dart world has lost a bit of favorability. So with this knowledge in mind, we come to the main question: is the Nerf Stryfe still worth it today? And my answer to that is no. But also yes, it depends. Goddamn nuance, am I right? Like I said before, if you're new to the hobby and you don't really understand how flywheelers work but want a high FPS one, I would recommend modding or buying a pre-modded Stryfe. There's cheaper off-the-shelf options that I feel like would be better for newer people to get their feet wet. But let's say you're already well acquainted with the hobby but want a new flywheeler that hits around the 150 FPS ballpark. Would it be better to buy something off the shelf or modify a Stryfe? This is where I think it depends. If you want something that just works, obviously just buying something will do. But let's say you do want to modify stuff. You think the act of modifying a blaster to something that'll make it uniquely yours is extremely fun. But there's nothing stopping you from modifying the off-the-shelf flywheeler people already have. So you can already have that flywheeler, and when you're ready to do whatever modification you want, you do it. So what's the point? What's the point of modifying a Stryfe if there's already blasters that can do the same thing and you could do similar mods to as well if you enjoy that? Well, this is where the Stryfe's absolutely insane catalog of aftermarket and community support comes in. If you want something very specific, the Stryfe probably has something you want. Seriously, just Google Nerf Stryfe mod and just scroll through all the stuff that comes up and compare that to like the Maxim Pro. And of course, if you've already modified Stryfes before, it'll likely be a better choice for you due to being familiar. And probably the biggest reason someone may modify Stryfe is because why not? Sometimes you don't really need a reason to modify something other than you can and you think it'll be fun. I think that's a good rule of thumb when thinking about things like this. Things don't always need 100% be about performance and effectiveness all the time. Modifying a Stryfe can simply just be fun. So that does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and that you found what I had to say here interesting. What do you think about the Nerf Stryfe and its relevance in today's Nerf hobby? Feel free to comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.